Good morning. John Hoyt here again to help provide and share practical security advice and tactics that you can implement in your business, at home, with your family, anywhere you can share these types of tactics that are useful for practically anybody. One of the last episodes I talked about was checking your windows, checking your doors. And the idea behind that was being proactive, going out and double checking that things are locked down, just like in your home, before you, you know, go to bed at night, checking that the windows are actually locked, checking that the doors are locked, checking that everything is good. Um, and, and that's just a good practice to do in your business anywhere, just to make sure that what you think is secure or what you think is turned off or locked down is actually locked down. Because a lot of times you'll go back and find where, for some reason, because of testing or because of you had a hard time getting something to connect, things were turned off and forgotten, and it was forgotten to turn them back on. And somebody in the comments suggested, put an alarm on them, which is a good, I thought was funny and is a good suggestion. So wanted to talk about that, putting an alarm on your systems, turning the monitoring on, turn your cameras on. And that is a good idea. Some of the thoughts about that is, just like your home, if you have an alarm system and you have it enabled, or if you have cameras set up, and I have those things. And one of the things that, that I notice is, especially with my cameras, they're, they go off many times a day. And a lot of those times, I'd say 99% of those times, it's a non-event. It's nothing special. It's nothing important. And I'll look at it, but it starts becoming one of those things where you just get used to that trigger, that alarm going off. Because I've got an app on my phone that notifies me if there's motion detected on a certain camera, and that's great. And I also have an alarm on my driveway, so if somebody comes down my driveway, the alarm goes off, and it lets me know, hey, it's a little sound that plays. It lets me know somebody's coming down my driveway. I've got a longer driveway, and I can't see people coming down my driveway. But what happens is that gets triggered once, twice, 3 times, 4 times a day, and you start getting used to it going off. And a lot of times it's because it's too sensitive, or cats or dogs are going by, or other animals are triggering the alarm, and you just kind of get numb to it. And the only way I know sometimes that it's actually somebody here coming down my driveway is the alarm at the top of the driveway goes off, and then my dogs start barking, right? So, I have all these types of alarms that are going off. But, you just start getting used to those alarms going off, and you get used to the triggers, and you just get numb to it to some extent. Now, if the alarm goes off at the top of the road and the dogs start barking, and my camera detection kicks off and notifies me, then I know, I've got all these layers, defense in depth, right? Layers of security that lets me know, hey, somebody's here, right? So, but this is what happens, and I've seen it many, many times, and I've experienced it many times. When you turn on the alarms for your business or for your systems, you enable a border firewall, an external firewall protection that has intrusion detection, maybe intrusion prevention. It has some kind of monitoring enabled and set up. The alarm system, it's like you set the alarm, right? Which is not a bad thing. It is, but it becomes a struggle where you're used to that alarm going off, or you begin to not even look at the alarms. If it's happening so many times throughout the day, when you first turn it on, you're probably like, okay, great, I've got this set up. I'm gonna know when bad guys are trying to get in. Well, they're always trying to get in, right? They're always gonna be probing and monitoring and scanning. And if you didn't know that, it's the truth. Now you know They're always scanning, they're always probing, something is always running. And it may not be an active person. It's usually like a script that's running throughout the internet that's scanning everything, looking for specific types of vulnerabilities. So that's going to trigger. And if you watch for that, it's going to trigger many times a day. And you're going to get numb to that real quick. So what do? You know, do you turn it on, or do you turn it off because it's just noise? Well, ideally, you know, you would turn on the things that really matter when they trigger. You know, so when the alarm goes off, it actually means something. You know, you've tuned it enough that when that alarm triggers, it's, you know, it's the alarm bell. Like, you literally like pull the alarm bell. Let's go. All hands on deck. Let's go see what's happening. That takes time, and it takes energy. It's a pain to deal with, and you really need to understand the attack. You need to be able to generate the attack type and be able to say, okay, yes, I triggered this attack, and I know that this is the attack, and it actually triggers the alarm. That ideally, that's the best case scenario. You've tuned it so that you're looking for specific things and you're able to identify them. But that takes somebody that knows, you know, security, knows the tools, knows how to work with them. I mean, you know, you just need to be able to be familiar enough to do that on a regular basis, right? Because new attacks are coming out all the time. So the other approach is, you know, you turn it on, you leave it on, you let it log, you let it monitor, but you're not watching it. Now, what does that get you? Well, if something does actually happen, it's more of a, you know, investigative tool for forensics, like to say, well, here's what happened, here's the alarms that triggered, here was maybe the pre-attack behavior, like they were scanning things, doing recon, and then here's the attack traffic, you know, those kind of things. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, sometimes that's what these tools are good for, is to piece back the puzzle of what happened and how it happened. You know, so it's a tough solution. It's a tough answer. You know, I'm not saying that's the best answer. Ideally, you want only things that you really need. You've checked the windows, you've checked the doors on what is actually exposed to the internet, right? That's the ideal scenario. You've locked things down to where only certain things that are absolute must are exposed to the internet, right? But even then, say you've done that, okay, but it's still going to get probed and attacked. It's going to happen. And you want some kind of monitoring enabled, but you don't want to be inundated with monitoring alerts that you just go numb to them and get used to them, or you just get used to the alarm triggering and then you just ignore it, right? Alert fatigue is a real thing. So it's a balancing act, you know, of tuning things to only what you need open. That is a must, if possible. It's tough sometimes. It's hard, but it is a requirement. If you can do that, it's the best case scenario. Then your tuning of the alarm is better. It's easier. Then you can say, okay, I only need these things exposed. Only turn on the monitoring for those things that are exposed, or those things that are specific to what is exposed. You know, but you still got to get familiar with the tool. You got to get somebody to help you with that. A vendor may be able to help you get it going, but an ongoing type of thing it's gonna need updates. It's gonna need whatever, right? It's a tool that it's not fire and forget. You have to have some kind of care and feeding for it, or it's just going to be meaningless, and you'll forget about it and you won't use it, and it'll only be useful when something bad happens. So if you combine the checking the windows and checking the doors with setting the alarm, and then tuning the alarm to only fire for when it means something, that's the three-prong attack defense, really, to help protect you, and it means something. So it's, you know, it's not an easy thing. Security is not easy. And it is a balance of those things where you want the alarm, you know, to mean something. It's tough to get there. And you have the FOMO, right? You have the fear you're going to miss something. Man, what if I don't have these rules enabled? What if something does happen and I didn't see it because I turned off the rule? Well, you're not going to see it because you got so many alarms happening. That's really what's actually happening. Most people have so many rules triggered, so many alarms running, um, that they just go numb. And it is a real thing. So my advice is to tune things, only open what you need to have an alarm. It is good to have an alarm. It's better than not having an alarm, but tune that alarm to only trigger for what is potentially, useful or means something when it does happen. You can still have it logging other things, but don't necessarily have it send you an email or alert you, unless it actually means something actionable, because you will quickly we're lazy. We'll get tired of that real quick, and we'll just start filing that to the other inbox or whatever, however you get those alerts, to ignore them. And that will help you. It's definitely something that it can take a little bit of help. You need some help sometimes if you're not familiar with these kind of tools. You could hire somebody to get it up and running for you, at least initially, and make sure it's good to go. But it will need to be checked on periodically at some point. How often, it just depends on how big your exposure is and how many tools you're running, all those things. But it is a good thing to do. You just got to be aware, be careful not to have it trigger an alert all the time. For my driveway alarm, I mean, like I said, it might happen 7, 8 times a day. 3 of those times might actually be somebody coming down the driveway, so I need to go tune it. I literally need to go change it to the sensitivity so it doesn't pick up a bird flying by or a bush, waving in the wind. So I need to go do that, really. So I hope this is helpful. I hope it's useful to just think about how, it is good to set the alarm, but just beware of not too much and not tune. And thank you for watching, and I appreciate it. Have a good day.